Colleen for Gavazos. The new leader in sports in Central Texas is Centex Sports Network and Infinity Sports.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back into Centex Primetime. I am your host, Jalen Gillis, and we are here today getting ready to go through some of these primetime topics in sports, not only in the Central Texas area, but for sports all around the nation. Hope everybody is having a good Tuesday as we got a chance to close out the NFL weekend last night after what was a very, very interesting Monday night football game, and we'll get to that in just a second. I got my man Rocky Miller back in studio with us once again. Everybody, Rocky, what's going on?
Hey, what's up, man? What's going on, man? It was a tough week, man. You know, I'm a Cowboys fan, and it's a tough week. But I'll tell you what, though. Last night put a smile on my face.
I bet it did.
You know what
I know it did.
It put a smile on my face.
Yeah, something wrong with y'all Cowboys fans, man.
No. We don't root on nobody's downfall or anything like that. But there's just something about that game. You know, to get it done by Kirk Cousins, on Monday Night Football, and snatching the snatching of victory. No, snatching defeat out of the mouth of victory. You hear me? Boy, nobody can do it quite like those Philadelphia Eagles, man. And so I just wanted, you know, this week was a bad week for my Cowboys, and whatever abuse you got for me today, I'm willing to accept it. But just know this. I'm going to love it every minute of it, knowing that Kirk Cousins got the job done last night.
Kirk Cousins, the money man out of everybody to do it. That's what it was. We got another guest in studio with us, Rocky. I'll let you go ahead and introduce him and set it up so we can get started here today.
Yeah. We got my Waco High class of 1988 brother here, my very good friend, Waco ISD Hall of Famer, Baylor alumni and football legend, none other than Reggie Miller is in studio. I thought I would bring him in to talk about the big game this week that Baylor has. Normally, a Baylor-Colorado game, two teams that are 2-1, wouldn't get much fanfare.
Yeah.
But anybody who plays Colorado at this point, Reggie, gets recognition. So how does it feel to have the nation's eyes on the Bears?
Hey, first of all, thank y'all for having me.
Yes, sir.
Glad I can come and contribute what little I know. But it's always good when the Bears can get some recognition. I think going up to Colorado, it will be good for notoriety and just to experience that for the team. But got to come away with a victory. You know, it's the first game of conference, and for both teams, so there'll be a lot going on in Boulder. But I think our guys are up for it. Hopefully, Aranda will get them acclimated to the circus that they're going to be experiencing, and they can come away with a victory.
Yeah, and I agree. Now, since we're already talking about the Bears and everything, we'll talk about that game from last weekend. I got a chance to attend the game. Baylor took care of business. It started out a little shaky. I'm not going to lie. It started a little shaky in that game, but they came out and they took care of business in that second half. Roberson coming in at the quarterback position for DeQuan Finn. Since DeQuan Finn suffered that injury against Utah, he was able to step right in, and the offense looked good. And once they got it going and they got their rhythm and their feet under them with the new QB under helm, they got it going. They were able to get a win against Air Force, the team they were supposed to beat, 31-3 in that game. Sawyer Robinson, 18 for 24, 248 yards in that game. The real standout, Central Texas native, Bryson Washington, who came from Franklin High School right down the street from here. So a kid that grew up in this greater Waco area. He really shined on Saturday. 12 carries, 106 yards, and a touchdown. Also had a long catch for 23 yards as well. So he helped lead the Bears to victory. But like you said, they've got another team coming in that's going to be a little bit tougher than his Air Force team was, as they'll be traveling up to Boulder, Colorado next week. They made the time for the game now. It's going to be 7 o'clock on Saturday. So they put them in the primetime slot on Fox. These two teams are going to be battling it out. And Rocky was on the show a few weeks ago when we talked about this game. We previewed this game for a Week 4 matchup, and we said that this was going to mean a lot for both of these teams as they got to Week 4. We knew they both had the potential to come in here with a winning record, and they do. Both teams coming in at 2-1 on the season, and this can kind of determine somewhat some of the trajectory for the rest of the season for both of these teams. Both of these teams are coming into this one hungry to get a win, looking to move to 3-1 and improve in the conference already. So, Reggie, since we got you here, I want to get your opinion on first the Baylor game from last week, and then what do you think some of the keys are going to have to be for Baylor coming into Colorado on Saturday?
Well, last week, Cameron stood out for me.
Yeah,
wide out.
Josh Cameron.
I think he's been waiting on an opportunity, and he's done the most with it.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's leading the team in receiving yards and maybe second in receptions. Also, Trigg, the tight end, I think he's a special talent.
Yeah.
I think he's going to do some great things. He's a transfer that came from, I believe he came from USC and Ole Miss. And so he's a big target, 6'4", 245. He can run, he can catch. So he's a weapon for the Bears that I think is going to be very, very beneficial. I think the transition from the defense going from 3 running schools to now going on the other end of the spectrum, to a game and a contest where Colorado, they just want to put it in there. They're going to be at home. Shador, anything under 300 yards ain't good.
Yeah.
So they're going to throw it. And so I think what's going to be real important is the safety position. Devin Bobby from DeSoto.
Yeah.
He's going to be very pivotal in
Yeah.
getting everybody in the right position and being able to cover at that safety position. And so I think just kind of getting acclimated, to that altitude as well.
Oh, yeah.
It's going to be pivotal. It'll take about probably a quarter to do so. We went up there in 91 and played against Colorado, pulled out the win, and it's a great environment, beautiful place, but you got to be ready to play.
Yeah, definitely a team you got to be ready to play against. Their crowd is going to be rowdy, as you alluded to. That altitude is most definitely going to play a part for these guys. A lot of these kids might not have played in this type of altitude, a lot of these Texas kids. So it's going to be a tough game for them coming in to this weekend. How have you liked David, since we're staying on this Baylor topic, Dave Aranda and him coming back to coaching the defense and doing what he was really brought into Baylor to do? He's getting a chance to lead this defense, and how this defense has looked in their first 2 home games. They've looked really good. And then that second half against Utah, their defense looked good as well. How do you feel about Coach Aranda coaching this defense and what the defenses look like?
Well, I mean, I think that's what he's comfortable with. I think overall that was a business decision.
Yeah.
And so, but I think he's done a great job, with his scheme. I think he's good at really, scheming what it is that he wants to do at the snap. I think that's going to be pivotal dealing with Shador, because if he knows what you're going to do before the snap, that's where he's at his best. And so I think disguising coverages and disguising, reads is going to be important. But I think Aranda is back doing what he's comfortable doing, which is coaching the defense, coaching the linebackers, and getting the best people on the field. That's going to have the most value for the defense.
Yeah, and I agree. I think he's back, like you said, doing what he's comfortable doing, and that's coaching the defense. So I'm excited to see how they go. This is going to be a high-powered offense that they're going against, like we know now. Colorado definitely has their own issues as well on that side of the ball as far as the offensive line goes. So I'm excited to see what Baylor's defense can do, especially this D-line with guys like Jackie Marshall and some of these other big guys they got down on in that front 7. What can they do against this, honestly, the struggling Colorado offensive line, and how can they take advantage of that matchup there? Rocky, any comments on this Baylor and Colorado matchup we got coming up this weekend?
Well, I'm actually anxious to see how Baylor plays against other D1 athletes.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they made a good showing against Utah first time out. Cam Rising, while he was in the game, he was able to do pretty much what he wanted to do. The defense was able to slow Utah down in the second half, but the games that they've played and had some success with teams, in my opinion, who didn't foster or didn't bolster D1 athletes.
Mm-hmm.
Tarleton, of course, Tarleton State is not it's a FCS school.
Mm-hmm.
And then, to be honest with you, Air Force is a school that gets great students.
Yeah.
But they're not known for having top level D1 athletes.
Yeah.
And so with that being the situation, I'm looking to see how they handle Jimmy Horn, Wester, Travis Hunter, and Shepard.
I got to correct you on one point. You said D1 athletes. Elite.
Yeah. So that's gonna be the to be honest with you, Utah didn't even try to push the ball down the field, even though Rising had a good completion percentage before he got hurt. My point of saying this is, I am from Waco. I want Baylor to do well. I'm not sure what they are as of yet. And Reggie, I just asked you this question. Do you know what you watched all their games. Do you know what they are right now?
Well, with the hesitation in choosing a starting quarterback so late in the camp, I think there's still a lot of balls in the air. And I think they're still trying to figure out like who they are.
Mm-hmm.
Washington just came back. He's only played one game. I look for him to get a lot of carries, probably anywhere from 18 to 20 carries on this weekend. And so I think they're still trying to figure it out. I don't think they anticipated Robinson being able to come in and play, in the third game of the season. So now they're having to kind of reset for the most part. And so I think you're right on the dealing with these elite D1 athletes. I think a concern is going to be you're going from playing against Air Force, who don't have a lot of D1 athletes.
Mm-hmm.
You're going from 0 to 60.
Yeah.
Or 0 to 100 now. And so I think the game speed, they're going to have to adjust to like really, really quick because you can't,
Can't simulate that in practice.
in practice. I don't care who you are. You can't simulate it. And I think the other part of it is the competitiveness that Colorado brings to the game. You can't simulate that in practice.
Yeah.
So they're going to have to adjust really, really quick in an atmosphere that's going to be very, very challenging.
As I think, like I said, I watched every snap of the Utah game.
Mm-hmm.
And what the thing that I saw that game was them searching the entire game trying to find something offensively that worked.
Yeah.
Now I have to be honest. I didn't watch the Air Force game. I thought Baylor would handle them pretty good. But again, it goes back to what will Baylor be able to do up front on the line on both lines of scrimmage. I think this is the reality against Colorado. I think they're very suspect on the offensive and defensive line, both of them.
Yeah.
But is Baylor the kind of team that can exploit their weakness? Because as you guys saw Saturday,
mm-hmm.
if Shedeur gets time, that offense can be really explosive.
Oh yeah,
really explosive. And so that was on the road that Colorado played, on the road in a very hostile environment. Coming back home, can they be even more explosive? Is what my question is. Will they be more? Will they be a more formidable opponent at home? And is Baylor prepared to? I didn't think very much of their first road outing this year. Like I said, I caught it, watched every play of it. It didn't look very encouraging at all. But here's another opportunity, and this is what Saturdays in the fall is all about.
Yeah.
You get to rewrite your history write your history each and every Saturday. And I'm looking forward to see what kind of what kind of history this Baylor team is going to leave, because I think Aranda's under significant pressure to not only, and we talk about winning, but I think he's under pressure just to show some improvement week to week, to show that the program is headed in the right direction. I know you are deeply embedded in Baylor University, Reggie, and you kind of have your hand on the pulse of the community over at Baylor, not only from being a former athlete, but being a Baylor supporter as well. What do the Baylor faithful think of what has been presented on the field thus far?
I think everyone is holding their opinions to see how we come out of this weekend. Mm-hmm. I think being up against a formidable opponent with Division I athletes, elite Division I athletes, and seeing how we stack up is going to be very important. But I think a lot of the community is holding their reservations to see what happens this weekend and to see if we're competitive. Not if we win, but just to see how competitive we are, especially, being on someone's schedule as a homecoming game. What do you do with that? Are you going to come out and are you going to fight? Yeah. And I think Aranda's really set the tone with the change in his coaching style. And hopefully the players have adjusted and they've accepted that. And I saw a little bit of it in the second half. Yeah. So that was very positive.
So and I'll just mention this. And this is kind of off the subject, but it's all about it's about the attitude of the community. You guys, for probably the last 4 months, Reggie, has been on a recruiting tear, right? Like, to be honest with you, if the momentum that's been happening probably ever since around April, May timeframe continue into the end of recruiting season, you guys will probably have a top 10 recruiting class. Is that enough for Coach Aranda alone to kind of maintain his employment at Baylor? And I'm not talking about his job, but even if the season is blah and you have that type of recruiting momentum, do you keep him and his staff on board just so you can get those guys signed and committed?
Coach Aranda moving over to defense, to coach the defense, and to be the defensive coordinator tells you a lot. Tells you a lot about where the program is and what the expectations are this year. You can have all the NIL money in the world, but you still got to win ball games. We got a brand new practice facility. It's immaculate. All the bells and whistles. It's beautiful, but you still got to win ball games. And if you're not winning ball games, nobody's going to want to come. It's still early in this NIL process. It's still early. Yeah. And right now, a lot of athletes are chasing the money, but at what point is the money either going to run out, slow down, and then you're talking about kids trying to get in the league, so on and so forth. So, those W's matter. And I think this year, no less than one, they've got to get to a bowl game. But it can't be the Rocket Miller Bowl, over on Dearborn Street. It's got to be a significant bowl, and it can't be on December 25th around Christmas.
What I'm trying to get a understanding of is because I think you got, this is just my opinion. Okay. I think you guys have the right guys on staff now. When Coach Aranda first came on, I don't know if the right guys were on staff to address the change in the recruiting climate. And I think that is why, especially last year, you saw a recruiting dip, like a performance dip on the field. Like you saw that teams really had better players, right? Now I think you got the coaching staff now that can identify the talent, going after the talent, and they're closing the deal. up to this point,
Yeah.
up to this point. And I would hate for, now, I agree with you. There's a lot of wins potentially on that schedule that they have.
Oklahoma's gone. Texas gone.
Yeah.
When you look at what Kansas State has put on the field,
Yeah.
when you look at what Kansas has put on the field, even Colorado, how they looked in their game in the 2 games that they won. Not to mention the game that they lost. It seems like there should be 6, 7, 8 wins on the schedule. But my fear is because of the quarterback situation. Right?
Absolutely.
Because of the quarterback situation, you may not have the right guy there. And then when you talk about you take a couple injuries to a guy like Cameron, who really represents the entirety of the explosiveness of your entire team. Like
absolutely.
Yeah.
And so you take a hit there, and then you realize, man, you're gonna go into a lot of games with, instead of having a 45, you're going in with a cap gun. And so and I would hate for that to undo what I believe this coaching staff is on the precipice of doing.
Yeah.
With how they've changed their mentality toward recruiting. I talked to some coaches who are no longer here before at Baylor, and they used to always talk about, we need Baylor guys. You know what I mean? We don't need Baylor guys. Well, I used to hear a guy named Kevin Steele say that. Then I heard a guy named Guy Morris say that, and they didn't win any games.
Right.
And then I heard then you heard Coach Browse talk about speed, athleticism, size, NFL, all those type of things, right? And then Baylor became a national power.
Yeah.
So again, this is what I'm saying. Baylor's going back to getting the top athletes in the country or around Texas, and that puts them in a different stratosphere, in my opinion, than what they've been the last couple of years.
Well, and real quick, if I could add this. So, and what everybody's forgetting is that when they won that last conference championship, those were rule guys.
Oh yeah.
Petrie.
Yep.
Yeah.
The line, Terrell Bernard.
Yeah.
Started for Buffalo.
So
there were about 7 guys on the defense that's in the NFL right now.
Absolutely.
And a couple of receivers.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, and those guys were 2- and 3-year starters. So what you think happened? They're playing. You got kids that are leaving. And
Gotcha.
So there was a gap.
Yeah.
There was a gap there. But you just kind of saw the bottom fall out when Petrie left. And those guys.
Well, I think you were encouraged coming out of COVID. Aranda did really well, and you come out of COVID, Baylor does really well. You think at that point,
we're back.
You're back, and then the whole landscape of college football changes. Let's be honest. Like when the landscape of college football changes and NIL becomes
absolutely,
it changes what Baylor is in the lexicon. And again, I talked to Baylor people who are embedded in the program, and they were talking like, "Hey, that NIL stuff that's for we're not getting involved in that."
But after we figured out we need to get involved,
now they got
we
shirts.
started wearing shirts. So we pay players. I mean, blew me away.
Yeah.
But that's where it is. Like you gotta get out there.
You have to.
And now it's a good time because the facilities are where they need to be. We just opened up, the new football facility. And so it's a good time, but you still got to win.
Let me ask you this, Reggie, as a Baylor guy. Even in NIL, like one thing I think Coach Taft did really well, even Coach Browse did really well, dominated recruiting in Central Texas. Anybody that could play came to Baylor back in that day. If you could play, you came to Baylor. We're back to an era where these guys have opened up their recruiting. There's some tremendous athletes. You got Weidman at University of Texas and McDonald there.
Yeah.
You got kids who from this community that are playing all over the place. Well, I applaud them for those opportunities that they get and and I don't begrudge them and their families for taking advantage of those opportunities. But I think, what do you think about Baylor prioritizing the kids that come from this community and have and building a connection with the communities here in Baylor, in Central Texas?
I think they've made a commitment now. You got NIL,
Mm-hmm.
you got money.
Yeah.
And the thing about it back in the day was they didn't recruit local kids that they couldn't afford not to play because they wanted to get people in the stands.
Mm-hmm.
And so they gave you every opportunity not to play. So it was up to you to go out there and be ready to play. But you've got a couple of kids at university. Rodney Smith's son.
A stud.
Yeah, he's a stud.